I want to do a shout out.
Oh, two?
Yes, I want to do a shout out to our listeners.
Yes.
I think being from Canada,
Mhm.
we have some listeners from Canada.
Mhm.
And I think it's amazing to see listeners from all over the world.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of listeners from the States, especially the southern states. So a big shout out to everybody.
Thank
Thank you
you
for
for
listening.
listening. Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is
It feels
amazing.
incredible. Yeah.
It does. Here we go. Let's boop
Boop some
snoots.
snoots.
Welcome back to Let's Boop Snoots. I am
My
Heidi.
name is Vero.
And we are going to boop snoots today.
Did you guys get that?
Heidi Vero. Heidi Vero. Vero Heidi. Today's episode is going to be about travel with the dogs. We focused mainly on like airline travel and stuff like that, but I suppose there's numerous ways of traveling with a doggo.
Yes, the train.
The train.
A boat.
Oh my god, a boat. I wonder if you can bring them on cruise ships. I didn't even.
I'm on a boat.
I'm on a boat and it's going fast and. Oh my goodness. Anyways, have you ever traveled with your dogs?
I've traveled across the country, but in the car.
Yep.
I've traveled from Vancouver to Vancouver Island, like Victoria, on the big ferry that's like an hour and a half long.
With Wiggum?
With Wiggum.
Really?
Yeah.
How did he do on the ferry? He would have just been like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Fun. This is fun. Okay. Yeah, so I lived in Kelowna, and then I drove to Vancouver, or near Vancouver, to get onto the ferry. And then there's this big parking lot where you park your car. I mean, you can get onto the ferry with your car, but I did not want to do that. So I parked my car at this like park and float. Park and float. And then I got onto this bus with Wiggum. And then they transport you to where you can get on the ferry. And then you buy your ticket. And then there's like this gate where you have to wait if you're walking onto the ferry. So I waited at the gate, and then they opened the gate. And then I just like walked onto the ferry with my dog, with Wiggy Pop.
Wiggy Pop!
And it's like an hour and a half long. And there's this room like in the middle of the ferry where you can bring your dog. And there's like a bunch of other dogs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And were there like facilities so that in case of doggo mess, like accidentals?
I think it had a hose in there.
Oh, okay.
So that, yeah. But there is like grass and stuff before you get on. So yeah. So people can like get their dogs out of their car and go to that little room or just walk around. It's kind of tight.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
Did a bunch of people ask if they can nonstop pet your dog?
No.
Really?
No, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I think most people stay in their cars.
Oh, on the ferry ride. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
It was probably like, I feel like the people that are on the ferry mostly do it regularly. So they probably just stay in their car.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think when traveling with your dogs, it's important to think and be prepared for everything. So you need to think about the stuff that you need readily available to you. So like if you're going to somewhere like an airport or a train station or, you know, all these places have like, you know, like ticket centers, like stations and stuff like that, where you're lining up and whatever. And you need to think, okay, what am I going to need? And how do I prepare the dog for this as well? Because like, I don't know if you prepared for that huge ferry ride or if you just sort of went for it. Wiggum's the type of personality where you could probably like, he's not a very excitable or super reactive like animal. So you need to think about it and do some practice runs.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
I just went for it.
Yeah.
I didn't train.
But you know, a
It's the type
ferry,
of thing that I didn't think that I would actually do, right? And then all of a
yeah,
sudden I'm like, I'm going to Victoria and I got to bring my dog.
Which I wonder, like, and I'm sure a lot of people think this too. Now, when you're dealing with an airport, I would hope that people would know that there's some more things that you have to prepare and get together. I would be curious to talk to people who work at these places and see if there's people that just show up being like, what? What do you mean? I can't bring my dog? Like, or people
I
think
don't
that,
think you need, for the ferry ride, there was nothing special I needed to do for Wiggum.
well, no. And I think it's
No. And
because,
it was
like,
quite like annoying because I was going there for a few days and I had like luggage and I had my dog and I'm getting onto this bus
yeah,
and it's just like there's a lot of people on it. It's like, oh my God.
yeah,
Try not to like hit people in the face with my like backpack and my
yeah.
suitcase and my dog.
And your dog leash and,
Yeah. And on this trip to Victoria, a little bit of a side note,
mm-hmm,
Wiggum was being like dog sat by some individuals while I was off to Tofino,
mm-hmm.
and he ate. They didn't know about like Wiggum's counter surfing,
Oh,
so they left an entire roasted chicken
oh
on
no.
the counter.
Oh no.
Wiggum ate the whole thing.
Oh my goodness.
Like the dish was like clean. He ate the meat, he ate the bones.
Oh my God.
So on my return, the individuals felt like really bad about it.
Yeah.
Wiggum had one bout of like diarrhea, like
Mm-hmm.
nothing much.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day I was leaving Victoria to go back to Kelowna, which is like a 3.5, 4 hour drive. And I was like, great. This is
Right.
gonna be fantastic. Getting on the ferry and then driving for 4 hours.
Oh
He
my
had one
God.
bout of diarrhea and then
Yeah.
that was it.
Wow, that's amazing. Like that
Yeah,
even
I
like
don't even
really
know like the bones, like where they went.
well, I guess he was so used to like ingesting socks that like, you know, a couple of little chicken bones.
He had like a stomach of steel.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like a mystery.
Literally
Where
a
did it
wash.
go?
That's where all the socks go and when you lose them in the wash. Wiggum's tummy. That's where they've been this whole time.
So yeah,
Yeah,
the roasted chicken incident.
that's hilarious. I'm surprised not even any like really bad dog farts in the car. Those
No,
are the
he slept the
worst.
whole way. And I was
Those
like,
are
is
the
he okay? Is
absolute
he like
worst.
lethargic or is he being as usual? Like, I'm just gonna sleep.
I can remember getting ready. Sorry, we're totally derailing, but anyways, getting ready to go for on a trip to the cottage. So like, and I had a bunch of friends, and we have like the the family minivan or whatever. And so we load up the van and everything. Everything's in place. Got all of our stuff. We're like, yeah, gassed up. And like in the first 2 minutes of like getting ready to drive to the cottage, Gibbon farted in the car. Like it was so disgusting. And like, so we're like all like excited. We're like hitting the highway and we were all like, oh, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. Dogs have
Oh,
those like,
bad
wonderful
farts.
moments to like really humble you as a human being. But so I never traveled
Okay.
very far with my dogs.
Okay.
The furthest they've ever gone is to the cottage. So it's a 2 hour, roughly a 2 hour car ride. And they've been doing it ever since they were young because I can remember having friends like I said, we've hosted a variety of guests at our cottage and stuff before, so we've had friends bring their dogs up to the cottage. And I can remember one of my friends, their dog was like horribly car sick, so she was following me. She insisted on taking her own car because her dog just did the thing where they start like almost frothing at the mouth, like it's like just drool and drool and
Mm.
drool and then eventually they vomit. So she insisted on taking her own car, and then we would just call each other because she was like, I need to pull over so the dog could barf.
Is
So
that
we had to pull.
Nicole?
No, it was Marnie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and her little mini doodle, Chewy.
Aw.
Chewy got, I think still gets, like, even for a 10-minute drive, like in the city, gets like horribly car sick. So on the way back, she gave him some Gravol, and he did much better.
Good.
But But yeah, so I've never had any issues with my dogs, but I've never tried taking them on any other kind of transportation.
Yeah.
So, but I have traveled with Michelle,
Yeah.
and we went to New Orleans, and I can remember like this was a trip planned a year in advance. So I'll just sort of dive into we can start talking about some of the airport stuff. I'll talk about our experience, and then we can talk about what some of the more official rules and forms and stuff like that I
Mm-hmm.
found online. Um, so Michelle and I knew that we were going to be taking this trip. She had Nikita. She was training Nikita for all sorts of different types of situations. But when she knew we were going on this trip, she started focusing her training to get her ready to travel on an airplane. You will never meet a readier person than my buddy Michelle. She knew everything. She had all the forms, she had everything packed, she knew like everything. And so in preparation for this episode, like I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and they were very similar things to what Michelle did, just about different people talking about their travel experiences with their dogs. So the first thing you want to do is you want to contact your airline who you're flying with and find out what their policies and their rules and everything is around dogs. See what forms you're going to need. Michelle got a form filled out by her family doctor, and then as well as her vet, so that she had the emotional support animal. And I found various sites where you can get letters. There's like you can go online and get a letter online. There's different packages that you can purchase where they do all this paperwork for you. I'm pretty sure she just printed them off from the websites and got them filled out by her various physicians and stuff that she needed. Most places, from what I saw, ask for um, like a health check. So you need like a form filled out by your vet saying that the animal is healthy and that there's nothing wrong with them, especially if you're crossing borders and stuff like that, right? It becomes like almost like it's all done under the food inspection like associations and stuff like
Yeah.
that and departments. And because you just want to make sure that they're not transmissing anything, right?
Or receiving anything.
Yeah. So in the months leading up to our trip, I can remember Michelle doing a variety of exercises with her dog. So um, Nikita already knew how to heel. So like, it's not like she's excellent on leash. So it's not like she's going to be yanking Michelle's arm off, like walking through the airports. Michelle made sure to practice all these things in like busy areas, so to get used to being around tons of people. She started taking Nikita with her to places like a variety of stores that allow animals in, so that she's used to waiting in a line with a bunch of people standing around her. She taught Nikita to stand through her legs. So, like, if you're really in a cramped spot or it's super busy, you have your dog standing in between your legs, so they're nice and close to you. Nobody's going to step on their tail or anything like that. And another one that she did, because we were taking Nikita in the cabin with us, was she'd practice at home and have Nikita lay down underneath a chair. And when she'd go to the park, have her lay down underneath the park bench and get her used to like curling up into that. I always call it the bagel. They're like when the dog
Yeah.
lays in that perfect
Wow.
little circle, and got her doing that because most airlines, and again, like the rules are going to vary depending on who you're dealing with, but most of them require that the animal is able to lay either in a small carrier if you have a small dog in your lap, or if it's a larger breed animal, they must fit underneath the seat on front of you. And let me tell you, I was surprised because Nikita is a very long dog, but she's very thin.
Yes.
But when she curled up, like she fit perfectly under the seat on front of us, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like,
She did her
oh,
yoga.
she did her yoga bagel, doggy bagel pose. But no, she did excellently well. She did excellent throughout the airports and stuff. Michelle looked at the air, like where our stopovers were, to see what services were available for animals, to see where the closest exit was. But most airports, and I have to say too, like when we got into the States, our changeover was in Chicago. I saw tons of people with their dogs, and most airports, because I looked at this up afterwards, have these things called pet stations, so that you don't have to leave the secure area. And what it is inside the airport, there's like this area of like astroturf, basically. So you go and your dog can do their business on there, and they have like a doggy poop bag station. They have a hose so that you can water it down if it's like a mess and everything. So I was very like, Michelle knew exactly where they were in relation to our terminals and stuff like that. Like she had the maps downloaded for the airports and everything ready to go.
Oh, wow.
So
Good for her.
no, yeah, she did very, very well.
Nikita.
And oh, and another thing too was, and it's the reason why I asked you that question earlier, is Michelle had a vest made for Nikita, because this requires a lot of concentration from your dog. You're asking them to perform in a very like highly distractive like environment.
Yes.
So she had a vest made, and she has these patches made, and it says like no touchy touchy and do not touch, the owner may bite, and
That's awesome.
and all these different things, so that, because you like, it's so hard, and especially around kids. And it was funny because like as we moved through the airports, especially kids, right, like they don't understand, right? So like they see a dog and
Yeah.
they're like, a doggy, and like, and everybody comments like, and everybody wants to, and everybody was like reading Michelle's like the various patches that Nikita was wearing on her vest, and like laughing at them and stuff like that. But like, that's why they're doing like a lot of these programs, as we spoke about earlier on an episode with St. John's Ambulance. And even when I was looking up in our airport here in Ottawa, there was an article talking about like the therapy program that they're doing there. So bringing dogs
Yes.
into airports as like to use as a therapeutic measure for their clientele, I guess. But so there is a lot of people. So those are like a lot of things to do to prepare. Another thing that I read about, and it's what Michelle did too, is you want to skip, like, so let's say you're flying in the morning, skip their first meal, because you don't want them to get an
Yeah.
upset stomach, and then you're cleaning up puke, or like no matter where you are. So skip their first meal. And another thing that Michelle did to just sort of help Nikita too is she had these CBD treats. So cannabis
Ooh.
oil,
Yeah.
like obviously with no THC in it. Like it was a treat and medication made specifically for dogs. So it was a dog treat CBD thing, and it just helped Nikita stay calm, like have it be a less stressful experience for her, and then helped her settle like faster on the plane. She curled up into that bagel and slept like the whole way to
Wow.
our
How long was the
our
flight?
oh my god, I'm trying to remember now. God, I think it was like I can't remember. It was like from Ottawa to Chicago, and then Chicago to New Orleans. So I think it was like from Chicago to New Orleans, I think was 3 hours.
And then probably another 3.
Well, from Ottawa to Chicago wasn't that long. It was like an hour and a half, maybe hour 45,
Yeah.
and then 3 hours to New Orleans. But no, it was a long day of travel, and it was hard on Nikita. Like she slept for like the next day, and that's the other thing, is you don't want to plan anything too crazy on either end
Right.
of traveling, right? So that they're not like completely like zonked. But
Now, did she go everywhere with you guys in New Orleans?
uh, we would take her for not everywhere all the time. We would take, because New Orleans is a very like noisy and busy city,
Mm-hmm.
so she would come with us some of the way. But she was like, Michelle travels here like fairly frequently, and has a timeshare. Sorry, I'm losing my
Okay.
words. Has a timeshare. So Nikita's used to being there. She's been there before. She's
Oh,
done very
okay.
well. And no, she did great. So we would take her for every morning. We would take her out to like the a less busy area and walk her like all along like the river, and come back.
That's definitely a place I want to go to.
I know. Oh, it was two.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah, 2.5 hours from Chicago to New Orleans.
Okay.
And I would say about an hour and a half. So it wasn't too bad. But anyways, no, she did great. So that was a learning experience for me, just remembering like the months in advance and what to do. And you just want to have some of those things. So like Michelle has this belt that she wears when she's training, and that she took with her traveling as well, that has like treats in there, has a couple of poop bags, has some stuff to like clean her up, has a tiny little collapsible bowl. Another thing too, depending on how far you're traveling, you don't want to give them too much to drink either, because
Mm-hmm.
they gon' pee. But So yeah, just all these things to take into account. And I was talking to Vero about it before, and you just wonder how many people show up non-prepared, and then the dog free. Like, think about even taking off in a plane and
Yeah.
what that
Ugh.
must be like for a dog, you know?
Yeah.
But and there's no way to
Like,
practice
definitely,
the
like, if
plane.
you can, bring your dog into the cabin,
Yes.
although I know that's not always possible. And you want to make sure that you notify your airline in advance, because apparently there's only like a certain number of animals allowed in the cabin at one
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
So that might affect your travel time. And what else? So I've done some research on this, and like I told Heidi, it was quite depressing, because
It's
if your dog
awful.
is not allowed in the cabin, they have to be part of the cargo. They go in the cargo area, which is not the best. Air travel can be dangerous for animals. And I've read about some sad stories about dogs being lost on layovers for like 20 hours, and they end up dying. Like there's no climate control. They say there is, and maybe there is, and sometimes it doesn't function. It's supposed to be pressurized, and I don't know like how well pressurized it is. So yeah, apparently dogs with pushed in faces, so like bulldogs, pugs, Persian cats, have a short nasal passage, and it's hard for them. It leaves them vulnerable to oxygen, like not receiving enough oxygen and heat stroke.
Oh, really?
So definitely, yeah. So apparently, there's a particular airline that apparently has a higher percentage of animal deaths.
Oh, God.
Yes. So I've read a lot of the horror stories that I've read about is from this airline. Like, I wasn't searching this particular airline. It was just like so airline, and I was like, wow, they're like really not great with this. But apparently they were the only airline that accepted these like pushed in, there's a name for it, like the snub nose
Yeah.
dogs.
Hmm.
So I went onto their website, and apparently in 2018 they did an assessment of their cargo practices
Hmm.
because of their high numbers, and those dogs and cats are now on the list of animals that they don't accept.
Wow.
But all these dogs that I've read about that like passed away,
Hmm.
like they arrived at their layover dead,
Oh, God.
were not like short nosed dogs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh,
Oh.
yeah. Ugh. So one died of like heat stroke,
Yeah.
and another one, they had this one was a short nosed dog, was in the cabin, and the flight attendant forced the owner to put the puppy in the overhead bin,
What?
and the puppy was dead. It was a 3-hour flight. The puppy suffocated.
What the heck?
I know. This is the same airline. You can probably just Google this and find out that they overbooked a flight.
Hmm.
I don't know. You're probably going to remember this. They overbooked a flight. So they were randomly picking people to get off the flight, and they
Hmm.
picked this physician.
Hmm.
And he said, no, I can't, because I need to get to this hospital at this time because I'm performing, like, I don't know, like a surgery.
Hmm.
They're like waiting for me for this.
Hmm.
And they got security on, and they assaulted him.
Oh,
Do you remember
yes.
this? And
Yes.
they dragged him off the plane.
Yes.
And this is also the same airline that did not allow 2 teenagers on the plane because they were wearing leggings.
What? Because they were
Do you
wearing
remember that?
leggings? No, I don't remember
You don't
that.
remember that? I remember that. It was their dress code apparently prohibited leggings.
Leggings?
Yeah,
God, and everybody wears those when you travel
I
because
know.
you're
Why wouldn't you
comfy.
want to wear leggings? So they apparently have a pet safe program
Hmm.
that advocates for like dog and cat animal safety during flights and good conditions while they're flying, and not allow like the pets to stay on the tarmac between flights or before they get onto the plane. But apparently, like, people go through this airline to get into this program, and then Like I don't like they don't follow what they say, right?
Hmm.
But like I went and looked at PetSafe and everything they say that they do sounds great.
Yeah,
So I don't know if they reviewed it since they did their assessment, because it does say on the PetSafe website now that they prohibit, like, they don't accept certain dog breeds now. So hopefully now they're reinforcing this now that their numbers showed that they had higher death percentage than other airlines. But then also, the owners have to sign a customer acknowledgement form, which removes all liability for anything that happens to your pet.
of course they would.
So, yeah,
And
and
there's,
they you allow them to bring them to the vet and all that if your pet is injured or anything. But then you also have to pay the vet bills. And it does say in that section also that if you refuse to pay the vet bills, then you might not be allowed on any of their flights in the future, on
oh
that
my
airline in the
God.
future. So, yeah, I don't know about traveling, like having to put my pet in a cargo area.
Well, it definitely freaks me out.
Yeah, it sounds like they're treated like cargo,
Yeah,
like
which
suitcases.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Vero and I were chatting about this earlier, and it's like it sounds like it's pretty risky because the same thing, like here you are working in an area that doesn't necessarily deal with a ton of pets. Maybe some of them do, maybe some of them don't, but
That's
you
true.
think airports and pets, and it doesn't really mix, although I think it's getting better. Like I said, like a lot of these different airports now have these animal relief stations because they're probably recognizing the fact that a lot of
Yes.
people are traveling with their, you hear stories on the radio all the time of people with their emotional support animals. Like one person had an armadillo, and some dude in Florida had like an emotional support alligator and stuff like that. It would be interesting to talk to somebody who works in the industry and just ask about the variety of different things that people brought with them. Like I remember taking my kids to an event at one of the universities here in Ottawa, and this guy had all these exotic like snakes and reptiles and stuff like this, and he had this one. It was called like a coin snake or something like that. And anyways, we were like, oh, like my kids were asking questions and stuff, and we're like, oh, where do you get these? He's like, well, I got this guy from Colorado, and I was like, oh, how do you bring them across the border? Do you need special papers and stuff? He's like, well, he's like, he went in this Tupperware container right inside my hoodie. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, so, and I just think like if my mom like knew she was sitting next to somebody with a snake in their pocket at the airport, she would like literally lose her crap. She legit would. But you never know
Oh,
what somebody's carrying next to you at the airport, I
yeah.
suppose. But I was curious to see what it looked like. So when I was searching, because I always wondered like where do they put them, and if they put them with your like if your luggage, is it like warm in there? Like because it gets like super cold, right? Like as you ascend. And so you can Google image it, and it is a little cargo space, and it does look like it's pressurized and stuff, but I don't think anybody is in that space with them. So, like you
No.
said, if there's like a temperature fail, if there's like something wrong with the pressure or anything like that, how are you going to know? And then you open up this cargo with a bunch of dead dogs in it. So like I was even thinking that I didn't read anything, or I didn't go down the horrible
I know. I don't know what
sad
happened.
doggy rabbit hole that you did.
Google, come
But
on.
I thought about it. I just thought like, because it looks comfortable enough. It just looks like an area where they put a bunch of dog crates in. And in some of the
Yeah.
websites that I visited, it said that you have to provide a crate where they can stand up, turn around, and like lay down in. So you can't like cram your huge dog into like a tiny crate because that's just cruel. So they're very specific about that stuff. So, and what I wanted to, I didn't interrupt you earlier, but there does seem to be two options when you're flying with your dog, and one is that it comes in the cabin with you, but like I said, they either stay in your lap. I would never, even if I had a small dog in a little carrier or whatever, I would never put it in the space above me. You can tuck it underneath the chair in front of you, but I would never put
Hmm.
it in the cabin space up top. I'd be like, no, sorry, but again,
I'm getting
if
off.
they're gonna drag you off the plane, like But I would just
Yeah.
like that's what's tough about it, right? Or so there's two options. So you bring them in the cabin with you, or you put them in the cargo space. And it sounds like if your dog is too big, and I think this is why Michelle did all the work that she did, because she knew that they have to be able to fit underneath the seat in front of you. So that's why she started working with Nikita in small spaces and helping her like get through that, and she did phenomenally well. So if you are more comfortable taking your dog and you have a larger sized dog, you need to know the dimensions of that seat in front of you. And you need to
Yeah.
start practicing to see if your dog can cut it, right? Because if they can't, well, they're going into the cargo space, because you can't have a dog just roaming around the airport. And people said that, like, it was so when we got up to disembark from the plane, there were people who were sitting right next to us. They were like, "Oh my god, I didn't even realize there was a dog there." Like, they didn't even see Nikita. And when you see photos of Nikita, like I said, she's a like a German shepherd, but like a long, like a
Yes.
very long, she is
Yes.
skinny. She's my thin little foxy girl, big pointy nose. But no, I was amazed that she was able to do that. So if you're not comfortable if you have a larger sized dog, like I said, you have the option to practice all these things beforehand. Usually when you fly, you are expected to fly, or the trip is coming. If it's a last minute thing, like you might want to consider something else. So you need to sort of look at what your options are, and then like deal with it accordingly.
Yeah.
But if you're planning a trip and planning on bringing your dog, I would suggest um, on practicing and really preparing for what they're going to be expected to do, because having read that and having looked at it all, I don't know that I would ever be comfortable putting my dog in a cargo
I
space.
don't think I would ever, I don't think I could ever do it now. Because I remember, was it 2017? I can't remember. There was this girl who had a golden retriever,
Hmm.
and that's what happened. He was 7 years old. He got, I think he was left at the layover, or there was something. It was like 20 hours, but it almost sounded like he never got let out of his crate
Yeah.
and he died.
Oh God.
Yeah, and they never took responsibility because I think like they got the dog and he seemed like really out of it.
Hmm.
So they left the airport, brought him to the vet, and by the time I think it was like a few hours later, the dog died
Oh God.
of like a gastric torsion or something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
But then the airline never took responsibility because they had left the airport and he died like a few hours after leaving the airport.
Yeah.
So that's how I got down this dark rabbit hole. I
Yeah.
remember that, and then I Googled that, and then I'm like, oh my God, there's so many other stories.
Deep, dark,
But I
depressing
did read
stories.
up on some tips
Yep.
on if you absolutely need to bring your dog and your dog has to go in the cargo, try as much as possible to use direct flights.
Yep.
So there's less chances of your dog getting lost during transfers, delays, layovers. Make sure your pet gets familiar with the carrier before the flight,
Hmm.
because you don't want your pet to injure itself in the carrier if it's like stressed out or anything like that.
Hmm.
You want him to remain calm in it so he doesn't hurt himself or herself. Avoid busy times.
Yes.
So busy
Christmas.
traveling
Yeah.
times, Christmas, March break,
Yeah.
and if it's in the summer or winter, avoid the times of day where there's like temperature extremes.
Hmm.
So in the summer, try traveling early in the morning, late in the evening. In the winter, try traveling more in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a travel label on your carrier with your name, phone number, travel destination, also your address, and examine your dog as soon as you get your dog back at the airport.
Hmm.
Make sure everything is okay. There's no injuries.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Those are some pretty good tips. In
Yeah.
terms of the paperwork, there was a variety of different things that I found. So like I said, the number one thing you have to do is contact whoever you are traveling with. So whether it be by airplane or train or boat or anything like that, contact them and know what their policies are around animals, know what is expected of you so that you can prepare better for it. The next thing is I found a couple of websites, and it looks like it was mostly American, of people that will take care of all, like you can purchase a package where they get you all your paperwork and they get everything signed off for you so that you're ready to go. It doesn't sound like the paperwork is very hard. Like I think that you need an
No.
ESA form, which is an emotional support animal form, which needs to be provided. That's for you, so proof that you need one, and that can be filled out literally by your family physician. And then you need like I said, the assessment to prove that they're healthy. So there's companies that will do all of this for you, and or you can just do it yourself. So the paperwork I don't think is a huge issue. And like I found it's all written on the airport website. Like there's stuff there for you to find and print off, and it directs you really well. And if you Google it, there's like various government sites too where it shows you all the different paperwork that you need. But just like you said, like about the horrible things that go wrong, I want to say this before I forget it. Yeah, know what the dangers are and know what the risks are, but also know that, and we've talked about this on numerous episodes too, is that like dogs are considered your property, right? And they're not even like, even when you look up these forms, they're like underneath like the food inspection agencies and stuff like that. So dogs are
Mm-hmm.
not like as much as we hold them like close and dear to our heart, like our family members, they're just simply not viewed that way in the other realms of like life and reality. So if something horrible happens to your dog at the airport, you're not going to be able to sue them because, like I said, in the eyes of the law, a dog is viewed as property and it's not very expensive, right? So I know in the States, like there's different rules around the legalities of stuff like that, but I don't think, and again, I'm just guessing, I haven't like looked this up, but I don't think there's been too many massive lawsuits where people were, you know,
No,
uh,
I don't think they can,
no, I don't think you
like you
can.
said.
It's not a
And
valuable enough like piece of property that's
no,
damaged.
and they do provide like autopsy, like if your pet is to pass away during a flight.
Hmm.
But apparently, like they will find the cause of death, but then they also usually find an underlying condition,
Oh,
like
for
heart
sure.
condition. So it's hard to, go against that, even though you've had your pet health check and your immunization records and you have all that saying that he's good to go when there's nothing, your dog has no conditions. They'll always find something. So yeah, it's hard to sue.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, like Heidi said. I did look up like what is the best airport for dogs, and JFK showed up in New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they have this facility called the Arc Terminal.
Hmm.
So it's a facility separate from the airport. It looks very nice. They provide, so they have vets there, grooming services, overnight stays, like whatever you need. Like they offer kenneling for your dog. I did see a picture like of a pool, so I don't know. It looks like your dog can have a good time also go at the pool. But apparently there's also this other facility 2 hours from JFK that is in competition. So apparently, I just read that they're
Oh.
not doing super well because a lot of the animals
Hmm.
are not going to the ARC terminal, but they're going to the other facility,
Oh,
which is sad because that terminal is like right beside the airport.
yeah.
Yeah. So
That's so
apparently, there was no,
cool.
yeah, it looks very nice. I feel like I would bring my dog there just to get kenneled.
Exactly. Whenever
So I don't know if that's something that they actually offer.
whenever we talk about these different topics and stuff, I always think about business ideas for us. We should start our own doggy airline.
I know.
with
The Yow Woof.
with the Woof Air. Snoots Air. Snoots Airline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, but it's I like again, like I can't, like I've traveled a fair bit throughout my life, and like even as a kid, and I don't ever remember seeing animals at the airport, like ever. But when I went on this trip, and I guess like it's kind of one of those things where when you're doing it, you're more aware of your surroundings, maybe. But when we were in Chicago, there was a ton of people with their dogs traveling with their dogs, a ton. Like
Wow.
at every single like terminal, there was like a person. Like I remember being like, I don't think I've ever seen this many dogs like in my life. But Chicago is one of the busier like airports, I think, throughout the US. And I bet you if you went to JFK, it would be the same sort of thing. I think people,
And they came up as, I think, the third best on the
oh,
list.
did they? They
Chicago.
were, it was,
Calgary was second.
no way, Calgary.
Yeah.
Calgary. Calgary. Bring my emotional support bull for the Calgary or horse for the Calgary Stampede. Um, No, I think it's we've said it a million times on the show. This is like a growing industry. More and more people are getting dogs. More and more people are treating their dogs like their family members, and there's all these areas where it impacts you, right? So having talked about all that legal stuff and talking about all the great things that are available, the my big thing that I would like to say on the show is that the onus is on you. You are ultimately responsible for your animal. So you need to do the research involved in what's expected of you, how things are going to work, because you don't want to end up with like a dead dog on your first layover, or being
Yeah.
dragged off a plane because your dog can't perform the way that they're expected to as per the airline policy or whatever policy, whether it's taking the train too or boats. Like, I don't know how I'd be able to fare with a Gibbs because I can't even get him in the canoe at the cottage. Like, these are things that you have to consider though, right? Like, even if you were going by boat,
Yes.
depending on
Yeah.
what size of boat that you're going to be on or what they're expected to go on, and you have to think about these transport things, like if you're parking somewhere, getting on the bus that's going to take you to the ferry or
Mm-hmm.
to the boat, and like all these things. And like we talked about, I think the show, it was like the pack, it's like the Amazing Race show with the dogs. Like, you can see that a lot of dogs are uncomfortable with uneven surfaces.
Yeah.
So if you're on a small boat, or if you're on like a super long bus that's twisting and turning and it's rocking back and forth and stuff like that, these are the things that you should prepare for with your dogs. So be prepared, be a good Boy Scout or Girl Scout, and be
Yes.
prepared. Be
Be a
prepared.
good dog owner.
Yeah. Get them ready. Get them ready, and get them some of that CBD treats so that they can chillax during
Yeah.
their stressful travel time. But y'alls,
Good.
have you got anything else to say? I
No,
think that,
that was it for me in airports.
yeah.
I want to do a shout out.
Oh, two.
Yes, I want to do a shout out to our listeners.
Yes.
I think, being from Canada,
Mm-hmm.
we have some listeners from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's amazing to see listeners from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of listeners from the States, especially the southern states. So a big shout out to everybody.
Thank
Thank you
you
for
for
listening.
listening. Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is
It feels
amazing.
incredible. Yeah.
It does. Reach out, contact, collab. I love it.
Woohoo.
All right. See you next time on Let's Boop Snoots.
Let's boop snoots.
Boop.
Bye.
Bye.
Boop.